The nurse looked at me like she wasn't sure how to say it. She kept adjusting the clipboard in her hands, and finally she just said quietly, "She waited for you, you know." And I remember thinking, waited for what? For me to show up? For me to call? I was 3 days too late for all of it. Her name was Eleanor May Calloway. Everyone called her Nana. And the last time I saw her alive, I kissed her on the forehead, told her I'd be back the following Sunday, and then let 7 months pass without once walking through those sliding glass doors. Before I tell you what happened next, if stories about family, regret, and second chances stay with you long after they end, consider subscribing. Every week I share stories that remind us how complicated love can be. Now let me tell you what happened. I want you to understand something first. I wasn't a bad person. I wasn't some cold, neglectful granddaughter who didn't care. I told myself that every single week for 7 months. I was busy, I had a job, I had a lease that was slowly drowning me, and a relationship that was quietly coming apart, and a mother who kept saying, "She's fine, Cassie, she's fine." And I believed it because I needed to believe it. Because the alternative, that she wasn't fine, that she was sitting in room 114 of Sycamore Ridge Care Center, looking at that door every single Sunday, was something I couldn't let myself think about, not even for a second. The call came on a Tuesday, 6:47 in the morning, phone face down on the nightstand. I almost let it go to voicemail. That is something I will carry for the rest of my life. It was the facility director, Carol, and she said, "I'm so sorry to tell you this, Cassandra." And I knew before she finished the sentence. I sat up in the dark, and I already knew. My grandmother had passed at 4:15 in the morning. In her sleep, alone. I drove the 40 minutes on autopilot. I don't remember most of it. I remember a red light near the highway overpass, and I just sat there after it turned green. For a long time. Nobody honked. I still don't understand why nobody honked. The nurse, her name tag said Diane, she handed me a sealed envelope and told me it had been sitting in the drawer of Nana's nightstand for 4 months, already stamped, already addressed to my apartment. She just never mailed it. And then Diane said something I wasn't ready for. She said she used to take it out sometimes and just hold it, like she was deciding. Every few days, she'd take it out, hold it, and put it back. She spent 4 months deciding whether to send me that letter. She decided no, every single time. I put it in my glove compartment and drove home and set it on my kitchen counter and stared at it for 2 full days. Because something in me already knew that whatever was inside was going to rearrange something permanent. And I wasn't ready to know what my grandmother had actually thought of me at the end. Here's the part I'm not proud of. There was a version of me, and I hate that this version existed, that had convinced myself Nana was the one who pulled away first. I know how that sounds. Just listen. When she moved into Sycamore Ridge 2 years before she died, something shifted. She got quieter, stopped asking about my life the way she used to. She used to want to know everything, who I was seeing, what I was wearing, what song was stuck in my head that week. And then one day, she just stopped. I'd sit with her, and she'd look out the window for long stretches and not say much. Sometimes I'd realize mid-sentence she wasn't listening at all. She was somewhere else entirely. My mom said it was just the adjustment, but it felt personal. And when you're 29 and already overwhelmed, and someone who used to be your safest person suddenly feels like a stranger, it is dangerously easy to build a story in your head where they've quietly decided something about you, where they've let go of you without telling you. So I stopped coming as often. Every other week, then once a month. Then I stopped counting. And somewhere in those 7 months, without ever making a conscious decision about it, I convinced myself the distance was mutual. What I had absolutely no idea about was what was actually happening inside room 114 while I was staying away. On the third night, I sat down with the envelope. Sunday evening. I made coffee I didn't drink. Overhead light on, hands shaking. I opened it. 4 pages, handwritten. Her handwriting had always been these small, careful letters that looked like they belonged on old Christmas cards. By this point, it was shakier. It took me a moment to adjust to it, but it was completely, unmistakably her. She didn't start with "I love you." She didn't start with, "I miss you." She started with an apology, and then she told me why she'd gone quiet. 3 years before she died, she had started showing early signs of dementia. Not Alzheimer's, something a little different. Something that, in its early stages, made her brutally, cruelly aware of everything it was taking from her. She said some days she would sit across from me and she could feel herself losing the edges of the conversation, losing the specific weight of my voice. She would look at my face and feel the details going soft at the edges, the way a photograph fades if you leave it in the sun too long. And she was so ashamed that she pulled back rather than let me watch it happen. She wrote, "I didn't want your last memory of me to be me disappearing. I wanted to stay whole for you, even if it meant staying away." I put the letter down and walked to the kitchen sink and stood there with cold water running over my hands, because every single thing I had told myself for 7 months was wrong. She hadn't gotten cold. She hadn't given up on me. She had been quietly, desperately protecting me, and in doing so, she had handed me exactly the evidence I needed to convince myself she didn't care. Her love had looked exactly like abandonment, and I had believed it. I went back to the letter, and what came next? I wasn't prepared for it. She wrote, "I watch that door every Sunday, Cassie. I know you didn't come, and I want you to hear me say this clearly, because I mean every word of it. I never blamed you. Not once. I knew you were busy. I knew life had its hands around your throat. I remembered being your age. I remembered how loud everything felt. I just wanted to see your face one more time. That's all I wanted, just your face." I had to stop reading. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the coffee to go cold. Long enough for the room to go dark around me without me noticing. I just kept thinking. She was in room 114, watching a door I never walked through, and she wasn't angry. She wasn't composing a list of my failures. She was just waiting, quietly, the way she did everything. And when I didn't come, she didn't decide I didn't love her. She just held that want inside her, gently, the way she'd held everything her whole life, without complaint, without asking anyone to carry it with her until there was no more time left to hold it. Would you have gone back sooner if you'd known? I've asked myself that question so many times I've stopped expecting an honest answer. I turned to the 3rd page, and that's where everything cracked open in a completely different direction. She wrote, "There is something else I need to tell you, something I should have told you years ago and didn't, because I was a coward who dressed it up as kindness. I kept a secret for 30 years, a secret about someone who deserved better than to be a secret." She wrote, "You had a sister, Cassie." I stopped. I read it again. I read it a 3rd time. Not a half-sister, a real sister. Born 2 years before you, given up before your mother ever met your father. She was 17 years old, and she was alone, and she was terrified, and she made a decision she spent the rest of her life carrying. I helped her carry it. I shouldn't have. Not like that. Not in silence. And then she wrote, "I'm not telling you this to hurt anyone. I'm telling you this because I have been lying in this bed for months, thinking about what it means to love someone, really love them. And I don't think love is supposed to look like protection. I think it's supposed to look like truth. I got that wrong for 30 years. I don't want to get it wrong anymore." I sat on my kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets, and I cried in a way I hadn't cried since I was a child. Not for myself, for a girl named June who entered this world and was handed away before she had a name in anyone's memory. For my mother at 17, alone, terrified, making a decision that closed around her like a fist and never fully opened. For my grandmother, who thought she was holding everyone together by keeping the wound from the air, and who spent 30 years watching it quietly fester instead. And then I thought about the letter sitting in that drawer. 4 months. She takes it out. She holds it. She puts it back. She was trying to decide whether the truth would hurt me more than the silence. She chose the truth. In the end, she chose the truth, and she never got to know if it was the right call. On the last page, she had written, "I left something for you at the facility, under the bed. Find it before someone else does." She deserves for someone in this family to finally know her face. I drove back the next morning. The room was already empty, bed stripped, walls bare, but the shoebox was still there, pushed against the wall, my name on top in black marker. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, a photograph of a young woman, maybe 22, 23, standing in front of a house I didn't recognize, holding a baby. On the back, in my grandmother's handwriting, before everything changed. 1963. I brought it to my mother. She went completely still. She looked at it for a long time, and she didn't say, "Who is that?" She didn't say, "I've never seen this before." She said very quietly, "Where did you find this?" And then she looked up, and her eyes were doing something I had never seen them do. Not grief exactly. Something older than grief. Like a door that had been locked for 30 years had just come open, and she didn't know yet whether to walk through it or push it closed again. She said, "I need some time before I can tell you all of it." She hasn't told me yet. We had dinner last month, and the photograph was on my bookshelf, and she glanced at it when she walked in, just for a second, just a flicker. And then she sat down, and we talked about other things. When she left, she held on to me longer than usual, and she said, "Your grandmother loved you more than you will ever fully understand." I think about that sentence every day. I think about Nana taking that envelope out of the drawer every few days for 4 months. Holding it, putting it back, trying to decide if her love was the kind that protects or the kind that tells the truth. I think about her lying in that room at 4:15 in the morning, the facility quiet, the hallway dark, her door cracked open the way she always kept it, just in case someone came. Nobody came, and somehow, impossibly, she found a way to forgive me for that before I ever even knew I needed forgiving. She wrote it into 4 pages of shaky handwriting, and she put it in a drawer, and she almost didn't send it, and then she didn't send it, and then she died, and a nurse found it, and now it lives on my kitchen table where I can see it from anywhere in my apartment. Room 114 is someone else's room now, someone else's door, someone else's Sunday. The photograph of June is still on my bookshelf. Some mornings I look at her before I make coffee. I don't know who she became. I don't know if she ever went looking for us. But she has a name now, in at least one person's memory. And that is because my grandmother, in the last months of her life, when her mind was going and her body was tired and no one was coming through that door, she decided that love, real love, was not about keeping people safe from the truth. It was about making sure the truth survived her. She waited every Sunday. She never blamed me. She held a secret for 30 years and let it go at the very end. She took that envelope out of the drawer over and over and couldn't send it. And the reason she couldn't send it, I finally understand, is the same reason she went quiet. The same reason she pulled back. The same reason she did everything. She didn't want to be a burden. She loved me so much that she couldn't stop trying to protect me, even from herself, even from the truth. Even from knowing how much she missed me. She waited for me every Sunday for 7 months, and she never once made me feel it. That is the kind of love I didn't understand until it was too late to say thank you for it. If someone came to mind while you were listening to this, someone you keep meaning to call, something true you keep almost saying, don't wait. I mean it. I don't know how much time you have. I don't think any of us do. And the people who love us most are often the ones least likely to tell us they're running out of it. Her name was June. She was real. She was ours. And somewhere in this world, she is living a whole life that none of us got to know. The nurse said she waited for me. She waited every Sunday. Room 114. The door I never walked through. I'm so sorry, Nana. I'm so sorry I didn't go. If this story made you think about someone you haven't called in a while, don't wait too long. And if stories like this stay with you long after they're over, consider subscribing. There are many more stories waiting to be told. If this story touched your heart, don't leave yet. The next story might change the way you see your own family.